Saikawa-sensei, that's some really warped logic you mentioned at the later part of this episode, with how children have different personalities, but then they kind of link and become one later on down the road. So, I like the ideology, the philosophical meaning behind this episode, along with just getting to see the witty dialogue between the characters. Now, one of the main things when it comes to this episode of The Perfect Insider that you want to take note of is that this episode was to show the similarities between Moe and Shiki, the main mystery, what the mystery is kind of wrapping around right now when it comes to her murder case and what happened to her parents many years ago. So, the main point is Shiki and Moe having all these similarities, but also showing how Moe is as a character and how she's questioning if you loved your parents, or why would you kill your parents if you lost your parents. That was kind of what the main point of it was. Moe was wondering, why would someone kill their own parents? Because, as we know, Moe has lost her parents, and there's been a lot of focus around that for the past, 2 to 3 episodes. And seeing this mentioned once again, that's kind of what the entire point of this episode was for Moe to realize, why would you kill your parents, and why does she do what she does? Why does she have these different personalities? Why does she act like she does? Why does she call herself a doll? There's so much meaning here, and I have to hand it to A1 and the scriptwriter. The scriptwriter really needs to be complimented for this series, because the work that's being put into the script for this series with the dialogue is something that is very impressive, and I don't think many studios could accomplish as well as I'm seeing it in this series, because the dialogue from the sensei, Saikawa, when he starts talking, and he says, you do realize, children, they have a bunch of personalities. They're constantly contradicting themselves. They constantly think about, what they do, and as human beings, they contradict themselves. And I know this is kind of true, but it's a little bit warped the way he puts it, but somewhat this is kind of true. I'm not saying the entirety of his logic is true, but some of it is in fact true. As a kid, since you are a child, there might be times to when you're alone and you start thinking in your mind and talking to yourself and you're like, oh, okay, so should I do this, should I do that? And you just start thinking about certain things and trying to justify what you want to do, and when you talk to yourself about it, and then you have these different contradictions as you go on. And as you grow as a person or you mature, all these different personalities kind of merge into one, to where you're just one solid person with one solid outlook on life, which is a really cool philosophical discussion that can lead into many debates, which I'm going to save for that for you Chibits in the comments. But I have to hand it to Saikawa for his warped logic, and the scriptwriter for writing that in, and the writer of the original series that did The Perfect Insider, because I think this is based off of a light novel, and just seeing stuff like this makes me want to read the original source, just because of how detailed it is for an anime series. I mean, this is some ridiculous detailed stuff, because let's take a moment to actually factor in what this episode was, the setting of the episode. Once again, our characters were stuck in a room talking. What series does this sound like in recent memory? Roka. Think about it. Roka was able to tell a story with its dialogue and its witty conversations with its characters with just standing in one room, but they used different camera angles to make it interesting, and that's what was going on in this episode. The exact same theme with the episode when it came to the setting. And it's crazy how some series can do this, and other series that try to do something like this fail miserably, and it just crashes and burns into the ground. It really comes down to, I think, just the talent that works on the series, especially when it comes to The Perfect Insider and also Roka that aired last season. But enough with the comparisons between those two series. The personalities. So we come to find out where these personalities come from. For instance, Shiki or Makata's personalities, the 7 personalities that were revealed in the last episode, we find out what they are and where they came from. So, as we all thought, or what we assumed, she had different type of personalities. She had a boy personality, she had some form of cleaning personality, which I talked about in my last review. She might have had some form of personality that was really focused on technology, and there was many things I was saying about different personalities most likely she could have, because she has 7 of them. So, from what we found out, we got, I think, 4 personalities were discovered. We found out about a maid personality that died, we found out about a doll personality, we know about the main personality, and then we know about the brother personality. So that's 4 personalities personalities right there. So that leaves room for, three more personalities for Shiki. Now, if I had to put my cards on the table and think about it, what if, what if Shiki, what if she had the personalities of her parents? Because she takes the personalities of dead people. That's what she does. For instance, she uses the personalities of people that have died around her, and then she uses them, and she incorporates it into her very being, and it's like she carries on their life inside of her. So what if her parents are the other personalities? For instance, her mother and father. So that would be 6 right there. So who is 7? See, we have the maid, we have the brother, we have her main core personality, we have the doll, and then we have maybe, her mother and father. So who's number 7? What if the uncle was manipulated to kill Shiki's parents? Now, it was implied. That was the obvious answer with this episode, and I just don't believe that the Perfect Insider would give everything right off the bat like that. I just don't think it'd be that obvious, because so far from these past 5 episodes of the Perfect Insider, it has shown quite the opposite. It showed to be very hard to understand, or try to make you continue to guess what is really going on, and probably save the final conclusions of the mystery until probably the final 2 to 3 episodes. So I just don't believe that revealing the knife and giving it to the director or the uncle that she's having, a love life with, I just don't think it's that easy. But there is a possibility she was manipulating him, and then he killed the parents. Now, one of the main other core topics of discussion with this episode was freedom. Now, I want to take a few moments to actually look at the title name. The title name says everything becomes F. I think that's the exact title. I could be wrong. I'm probably misquoting it, but you get the point. That was one of the dialogue lines from last week's episode. And we found out about this F, and we're like, what does F stand for? Well, think about what the topic of this episode was. Freedom. What does freedom start with? What letter? F. So what if everything becomes freedom? So what if she's trying to free herself? Since she was tied down, and if she was thinking of herself as a doll, what if she wanted to free herself? We also know all the actions she does it, and she doesn't like to be tied down. Like, she does not like to be tied down at all. She goes out of her way to make sure she is not tied down, from what we found out from Psycho's logic on what she possibly was doing. So, when it came to being tied down, maybe the reason why Shiki's parents were killed was because they were tying her down to where she had connections, but also she couldn't have the type of love life she wanted because of how her parents would look at her. For instance, if your parents found out that, you were sleeping with your uncle, you kind of realize the general reaction of that would not probably be a very good thing. So maybe the reason why Shiki wanted to kind of imply that she's going to get her uncle, her lover, to kill her parents was because they don't want to be tied down. So they both have a connection, and they both were responsible for the death of Shiki's parents somehow, but it's not really revealed yet, so anything can happen. So the next topic of the discussion I need to really cover is something you Chibits mentioned in the comments last week that really needs to be discussed, because I didn't even think about it, and I'm like, holy shit, when I saw some of your comments last week. So I want to say props to all the Chibits last week that said this in the comments. You guys are fucking great. This is why I love you, Chibits. This is why I love reading comments from you, just to see what you all think about a series as well. So from what you Chibits said, there is a good possibility that the doctor, Shiki, she had a child inside of the room. Because what actually helps this theory is in this episode, Psycho mentions that what if the person was inside of the room the entire time, since the very beginning, before the cameras were installed. So that brings up an interesting question. So the only one, if it's possible to break in, would have been a daughter or a child. So what if she had a child while she was in there and nobody knew, and there we go, and maybe the child is the one that carried out the murder. But even then, I have to hand it to you, Chibits, for thinking about that, because it didn't really cross my mind until I started thinking about, the room situation, all that, but because we do know she has a maid personality now, so that explains the cleaning. We know she has a brother, so we understand maybe her, I guess, technology side to where she wants to research things, and then we know she has, like, a doll side, so that might explain, the robot. Oh yeah, I want to point out, though, if you did not know, the robot's name is the exact same as the doll. If you did not realize that. So yeah, the robot's name is similar to the doll's name that was mentioned in this episode. Interesting. But, yeah. So, Perfect Insider. Fucking great. A lot of discussion can be made from this episode in a philosophical level and also in debating on what you think is really going on. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think is going on here? Do you feel like Shiki has a daughter or a son? Do you feel like if she does have a child, do you think the reason why it killed her was probably because she was crazy, because she has multiple personalities, and maybe the child just didn't like seeing their mother like that, and eventually just killed her, because they wanted to go outside, which explains the theme of the series. Oh shit, think about this too. Freedom. What if Shiki, if she did have a child, she didn't let her child go outside, and that was in a form of a way taking away the freedom of that child, tying that child down. So what if that is the main reason of how Shiki died, because she committed the same act that she didn't want done to her? Oh shit. Now, also, one last thing I want to take note of before I end this video. The opposites were shown of Shiki and Moe's perspectives. For instance, we know there's a lot of similarities between these two characters. That was like the entire point of the episode. But you need to take note that the situations are very different, because we do know Shiki, she supposedly killed her parents, or, you know, the uncle killed her parents. And as we know, Moe lost her parents, and she was sad for losing her parents. So there's two opposites right there, but very similar, but two opposites. Let's continue on. We do know that both of these characters are very intelligent. They're prodigies. Because, I mean, look at how Moe started off with the series. You know, in the first episode, how she was interacting with Saikawa-sensei. She just showed the side of her that was very intelligent. Number 3, she is a person that loves to manipulate people, because we have seen this side of Moe throughout the series. She has manipulated people, and she tries to manipulate Saikawa-sensei, but it does not work out to what she likes. So that's, once again, the exact opposite of Shiki, because she could manipulate her uncle to do what she wanted, and that shows he had a weaker side to him. So Saikawa-sensei is a strong-willed person, while the uncle was not a strong-willed person. So, once again, opposites. Next thing to point out is also the type of personality where they don't like being tied down, or they don't like it to where their freedom is taken away. As we know, Shiki, she didn't like being tied down, she didn't want her freedom taken away. Moe is almost the exact same way, because if you backtrack a couple of times throughout the series, from these 5 episodes, you see it to where every time Moe is being interrupted or she can't do a certain thing, like go somewhere, do something, she gets upset and she starts pouting. So what if that's also another quite similarity between these two characters? So I just want to take quick note of that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.